Guys, as I've been talking the last few days about John Adams, Debbie's been scouring and learning more about the Adams family and reading some of the letters between John and Abigail Adams and giving me these sort of delightful and interesting tidbits. Let's begin by talk a little bit about their daughter
Right.
and
Yeah.
her
So,
misfortunes.
so this being October being National Month for Breast Cancer, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, October. We all wear our little pink ribbons. I've had friends succumb to breast cancer, so I've been, this has been an issue for me for a long time. But I was really surprised when I found out that their daughter Nabby had breast cancer. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1810 and underwent a radical mastectomy in 1811. Unfortunately, the cancer had spread. As you can imagine, they didn't have any kind of technology, nor did they have any kind of anesthesia back then. So you can only imagine the pain and torture that poor woman
And they were doing
went through.
primitive bleeding and other
Absolutely.
sorts
So
of treatments.
so anyway, despite surgery, cancer, took over her body, and she died at the age of 48. So John Adams and his wife Abigail, they had a lot of personal tragedy, and this was one of them. She was 48 years old, left behind children. So this was a very sad chapter in their life.
Let's talk about the relationship between John and Abigail because it was they were very close. They had a barrage of letters between them.
Over 1,000 letters.
Over 1,000 letters.
Over 1,000 letters between them.
But this also shows that this was a marriage in which John Adams was often away, right? He was away in Philadelphia. He was away in Washington, D.C. He was away in Europe as a diplomat. So for months at a time, he was gone. He'd come back for a short time. He's gone again. So strangely, letters become a way of
their
them
relationship. Yes.
Yeah.
And he would always, they would always say, "My dearest friend." That's how they would address their letters.
They both would.
They both would, "My dearest friend." But what people maybe don't know, unless you really have studied Abigail Adams and what significant role she had in the founding, she played a very significant role in his political life. And I don't know that he would have become vice president and president without her, because she had a discernment that he alone did not have. And she would advise him on this person and that person, and a lot of times in their letters, she would say H, Mr. H, which was Hamilton, right? Mr. J, Jefferson. And so she really, I think of all these men, she really enjoyed speaking with and conversing with Jefferson, because intellectually, she was right there with him. She was a very smart woman. And even though she didn't have any formal schooling, she was just really smart. She was
kind
very
of ironic.
savvy.
Jefferson was, of course, the great rival of Adams. They
Right.
had a very bitter
Yes.
fight in 1796, which Adams won and became the president. But they had another bitter fight in 1800, which Jefferson won and went on to 2 terms.
Yes.
But you said that Abigail sort of admired Jefferson, maintained cordial relations, even when his relations with Adams were frayed.
Right. She always, because she always thought that he was in it for the right reasons. Whereas with Hamilton,
Read what she says about.
Yes. So basically, she says that Hamilton is a man as ambitious as Julius Caesar, and his abilities would make him dangerous if he was to espouse a wrong side. His thirst for fame is insatiable. So she kind of knew that he was in it for himself, that he was he was a narcissist. He was very ambitious. And so she kind of, let him know.
I mean, the interesting thing about Adams was a man, incorruptible, but he was also, in a way, a little vain, a little blind, right, to other people.
He was extremely naive about people. He really never really understood what made them tick, but she did. And she guided him and advised him. And actually, I wanted to read something that was really amazing. This is when John Adams became president. and he was just bombarded with all this stuff. I told you this morning that I was kind of like intrigued by the whole White House thing when Washington moved out of the White House and John Adams moved in. It was like the whole place was a dump. I mean, they had no china, they had no linens, they had no carpets, no chairs, nothing. And John Adams goes in there and he's like, "Oh my goodness, what have I done?"
I mean, and here's a guy, earning, you said
yeah,
25.
25,000 a year. So he was really taking a pay cut being president, but he couldn't tell anybody. He didn't want to tell anybody, but he confided in her. And of course, war was about to break out with France, and I mean, all of this stuff. So anyway, so he writes her and he says, "I must go to you, or you must come to me. I cannot live without you." So he was saying this to Abigail. And then here at the bottom, he says, "The times are critical and dangerous, and I must have you here to assist me," he told her. "I must now repeat with a zeal and earnestness, I can do nothing without you."
And here's a woman who is not only raising a family, but managing a farm, doing the family finances.
Yes.
And also trying from a distance to
Yes.
keep her eye on what's going on in Washington.
Yeah. So she really was, when they say the woman behind the man, hint, hint.
Well, I mean, she knew that in that era, she couldn't. You're like
trying to
to move quickly on. I think you're trying to convey that some of these qualities, some of this naivete about human nature is
that
also...
too, and also just the ideas that I feed my husband that go unnoticed, those kind of things. I'm like, oh my goodness, Abigail, wow.
Are you saying that my trenchant observations and you go, wait a minute, weren't we talking about that this morning, and didn't I drop that idea?
Yes,
well,
yes,
that does
yes.
occur.
So anyway, so reading about Abigail and her relationship just kind of, reminded me a little bit about ours. Just saying. So,
Oh, yes,
anyway.
it does.